welcome to our weekly selectmen's meeting, and on behalf of the board and our manager, we welcome all of you and ask that you stand and join us in pledging allegiance to the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First off, yesterday afternoon, our chairman, Judy Colby, called me up and said that she wasn't sure if she would be here today because it turned out today would be a busy day for the Colby family. And I told her she works really hard for the town and she wants to take a day off and take it easy. She's more than her. So here we go. Oh, okay. And I would ask that when we adjourn tonight, we do so in memory and honor of all the people who lost their lives in tragedy. Dayton, Ohio, El Paso, Texas, and Gilroy, California. Give a second.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Thank you very much. All right, to the agenda. Item 2, approval of the treasurer's warrants. Payroll warrants for July 26th and August 2nd, 2019.
I make a motion that we approve the payroll warrants for the 26th. July 2019 and August 2nd, 2019.
Is that a second?
Yep.
All those in favor? Well, they're not unanimous. Accounts payable warrants, July 30th and August 6th, 2019.
I move that we accept the accounts payable warrants for July 30th, 2019 and August 6th, 2019.
All those in favor? Unanimous. 3, approval of minutes. Are there any corrections, corrections, additions? Well, I do have a couple. On the first page, under committee appointments 5, after the sentence of the third line that ends applicants for committee memberships, I would like to insert the following. Selectman Ryan shared some of his concerns over the use of the interview process. Is that okay with everyone? All right, on the third page, under D, I just question this. I made the motion, it was moved to approve the rules of order and procedure for the Wiscasset Select Board. We did do that, but we actually did amend it. Should that have been in the motion? Or at least mentioned in here somewhere that we did amend them from there, what they originally were.
Did we amend them?
Johnny's going to have to move it after the approval.
Well, I'm asking if that's appropriate or not, I don't know. We were going to add to that section that people had to be present. And we've since gotten a legal opinion on that, so we did amend them. Is that all right with the board?
Yes.
So be it. Then I will move we accept the minutes as amended.
Second.
Very good. All right, number 4, we have no special presentations or awards, no committee appointments, or public hearings. 7, public comment on non-agenda items. At each regular selectmen's meeting, there will be a time devoted to any resident or taxpayer of the town of Wiscasset to address the selectmen regarding an item that is not on the agenda for that meeting. Does anyone wish to address the board? The chair is pleased to recognize a former member of this board, Judy Flanagan.
Would you like me to put there? I'm Judy. Okay.
Well, I would, but I don't.
I
Yes.
have a serious question to ask. I was asked, and I guess I'm not sure how to. Is it legal for the select board could put an article out for consideration to disband the current historic preservation. It would not necessarily take a petition, correct?
What was that? It wouldn't necessarily?
It would not necessarily take a petition.
If the board so chose, if they wanted to,
I was asked that question, and I agree with you, but I wanted to be sure.
did you write that down? Judy Flanagan agreed with me. Write it down. That's fine.
Happening way too much.
I think,
Historical.
Yes.
I think that, I think Judy, when you and I were on the board together, when we were going through the budget process, I put that on, and we voted on it one year. It wasn't by petition, it was by 3-2 vote for the select board to put that out.
Okay.
I was just going to say that we actually did that once.
Yes, we did.
And the townspeople rejected the motion.
Okay, I do feel, having gone to several of the meetings, that there needs to be a review of what's happening in that neck of the woods for serious consideration of what to do now.
I thought they are in the process of trying to revamp things. And
They are working on some changes, but it's procedure, which is, I think, is hurting their efficiency as far as getting support for what they're trying to do. So anyway, but I do ask this board to give some thought, have some conversations in public with the committee to maybe see how it could be made better. And
I would say for my position, because after it was passed, the board in fact did go through that, of seeking to repeal it, and the townspeople said no for the second time, or upheld it for the second time, that if it was going to be a question, I would want to be a petition.
as it was said at the meeting the other night, that was not a large difference between the votes, and I'm not suggesting that we need to go through that right now, but we need to make some changes.
That may be. I would just say that the vote itself took place in the November election, and so the turnout itself was quite large, so it speaks to the majority of what the townspeople
Right.
want.
But as we said the other night, I think there have been people, I know people, that would vote differently now. So it was quite new when that happened, when it first, that vote came. And anyway.
Yeah, well, I understand, the very first time it came around, I was not in favor of it, but it passed, and then it passed the second time around. And for me, I would want it to be a petition, and I also would want the vote to take place at the June town meeting, where it would get the most votes, one way or the other. Yes? Kim?
I wonder if we could have a larger conversation about all of the committees and commissions of town. We kind of touched on this 2 weeks ago at our meeting when we agreed to share the rules, like the bylaws for how we operate with the other committees so that they would have some guideline. And I have heard feedback from different members of the public about that committee and other committees. So I wonder if we should plan to look at that. Obviously not tonight, maybe when we could have some time to research it, but have a discussion, just like how do we check in with our committees and make sure that they are representing Wiscasset and Wiscasset residents in the best way possible. How do we measure that? How do we evaluate that? Maybe even on our next agenda, or we could put it as an agenda item next month, just something that we can plan to do, because I have heard different things about different committees, and maybe it would be a useful discussion.
It might be useful to check with Maine Municipal Association to see if they have any seminars or programs on such.
Well,
Things.
they do, I usually look at them. Okay, I can do that.
Well, just a suggestion. Catherine?
Getting back to what Judy was talking about, she's not alone in hearing things about the historical commission. And when people voted, they were voting more for the idea and the concept of the committee. And I think what we're hearing now is they're straying from rules of order, or I'm not sure what the description would be in my head that I could come up with, but I think it is important that we do at some point, very soon, have a meeting with them and have it public, or however we want to decide to do it, and figure some things out, because it's not good. It just isn't. And I do agree with you. Thank you.
Anyone else? Kim?
Kim Wilchin. I was one of the first people to ever go, no, I was the first person to ever go in front of the HPC. I actually have been in front of them 3 times for the same property. It is not an easy process as the homeowner, because it is difficult. People are, we have voted to ask this group of volunteers to help guide us into preserving the historic character of that district. And no one wants to be told what they can do. It's a very difficult thing to go in front of them and realize somebody is trying to tell you what to do with your property. But there's documented proof that maintaining the historic character of a community like this adds to the property values. And if we are maintaining property values, then we're helping the entire community. It's difficult. They are a new committee, and it is, and they need to be aware of the way in which they are communicating to the people who come before them. I have heard them myself say, our preference would be, they don't mean my personal preference is you do X, Y, or Z with the house. They need to start to understand, they have to say, the historic precedent would be, the historic preference would be, these are the materials that would have been used at such and such a time. And they are getting to the point, they're working on talking about materials, so that there's something that the people can vote on to say yes or no, we're willing to accept this. And that's what this last issue was about, the materials in a fence. So I would also encourage you to look further into that last meeting. I would encourage every one of you to go to the tape and watch it and listen very carefully, because John O'Connell spoke out over the past couple of months about the way in which citizens in this town treat members of the town offices that work for the community, and that would include our volunteers. And some of the people who spoke to that committee the other night did not do so in a decent manner. I would very much encourage you to listen to that. So when you hear complaints, it works both ways. There's a value to that committee. And I would not want to see, and yes, it's new, but it was 3 years old when you asked the community to vote on it again. And that was only 1 year ago now. I think it was one and a half years ago.
A year ago, November?
Yeah. So we don't need to revisit that again. We already have revisited it. Let's talk about improving the HPC and getting the community to understand its value.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to address the board? If not, on item 7, item 8, department heads. Wiscasset EMS Director Dennis Simmons. Good evening.
Good evening. First thing I have tonight, as you're all aware, we voted to hire another full-time person for the ambulance department this year. We made the decision that we would hire somebody as a deputy director and give them some responsibilities for helping me run the department, since they're going to be here full-time anyways. We advertised, we received 11 applications for the job. We interviewed 10 people. Their initial interview was with a committee made up of the current staff over there. They recommended 3 people to go on to a second interview, which was John, myself, and Kathy. We interviewed they interviewed their 10, we interviewed the 3, and then we scored them on some set criteria, years of service and EMS, license level, and so on and so forth. Throughout that entire process, one person just kept rising to the top, and that was Erin. So this is Erin Bean. Erin has agreed to come work with us full-time here, and we'll put her on the spot and let her tell you all something about herself.
Hello. I live right in Dresden, so I'm pretty close by. I have been in EMS for 19 years. I've been a paramedic for 6, and I'm really glad that I was allowed to come and work here close to home and be able to be a part of the community. Thank you.
Happy to have you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome to
Thank you.
Wiscasset.
That sounds like an extensive interview process, and obviously you earned the opportunity. Congratulations.
Erin's also licensed by the state as an instructor, so she can teach the classes for us as well. So we're excited to have her. Second item we had is the Dresden contract again. I did go through and pull some minutes from your selectmen's meetings from that year. And on your April 4th, 2017 selectmen's meeting, that was when Toby came to you to ask for permission to bid on the contract. What you voted for in that motion to allow him to do so was a 3-year contract starting at $6,000 and increasing $500 for each year through 3 years to $7,000. The clause was that if they dropped the contract early, they would have to pay for the uncollected. That's what you made a motion for, that's what you voted on. They had their town meeting based on that information, that they would only have to pay the uncollected if they broke the contract early. And on your June meeting, which was after their town meeting, you agreed to that contract. So it's not exactly what it says in my mind, but that's what they were presented with, and that's what they thought they were voting on.
But to me, the point you just made, that is not what the contract says,
That is not what the contract says.
which the Dresden Selectmen signed.
That is exactly right.
They have a certain responsibility to know what they're signing.
They certainly do. And if you end up in court, that's, the signed contract is going to be what holds up in court. But that's not what you voted on. That's not the contract that you voted to present to them. So I just need to know which way you want to go with this, because there's still sitting on a bill that we sent them for almost $7,000.
Right now it's 7,000.
That was for the fiscal year 18, right? Fiscal year 18.
Is that the total so far?
That was for that 1 year. It takes a while to get everybody through the entire billing process to know that they're going to be uncollected, so.
I'm tempted to go with the contract they signed itself.
I mean, you have a copy of it, right? So you know what it says.
You know what it says, and they signed it July 1st, which is after their town meeting.
After their town meeting.
I mean, if you look at if you look at the minutes, it just says that Bob Blagden questioned whether we were doing something with the collectibles. It doesn't actually have an answer to that in the June minutes, and then in the April minutes, it says that they would be responsible for the uncollectibles, right?
If they broke the contract early. If they backed out of the contract, then they would be responsible.
I don't know.
That's That's the position they're in, I don't know.
I mean, but the contract does say furthermore,
It does say.
blah, blah. And this is before my time, but
I don't remember, I remember we talked about that a lot, and I don't remember leaving the minutes don't lie, correct, but I thought that the collectibles were part of that negotiation.
I think that's the general
Because
opinion of the board.
we saved them 10,000, you know what I mean? So but I don't know why they're in the minutes like that, because I wouldn't have voted, when I was a selectman at the time, to not pursue the collectibles.
I really believe that was the matching orders we gave the director at the time. We
Correct.
wanted the collectibles collected.
Correct.
I'm sure that Bob did.
Right, right.
Yeah, and I'm sure, and that probably, that may be what he questioned in your June meeting, was, you know, the wording of it. I don't know, because it's
did you
not
watch
specific.
it? Did you go back to YouTube and watch it? Because
It's not.
sometimes not every word gets
It's not
picked
listed
up.
on YouTube, it's not there.
It's not.
No.
Big Al?
Who drew up the contract that they signed? Out of curiosity.
According to Kathy, Toby actually drew it up.
Well, it's a legal question. I think maybe we should run it by the lawyer and see what he thinks anyways. I would tend to stick with the contract.
That is what's binding.
I mean, it's black and white, it's quite clear.
I agree, that's why we sent them the bill.
How much was the bill?
6,900 and something, almost 7,000.
Is that all right with the board to have a town attorney look at that?
Yeah.
Most definitely, I mean, you're right.
We need a little guidance as to how to move forward.
Yep, that's fine. Yep.
I appreciate all your work on it.
No problem.
It made it a lot easier for me.
Okay.
And I hate that there was a misunderstanding, you know, like I hate the idea that Dresden may feel like it was the old switcheroo or something. That just is unfortunate.
If I remember right, we matched the same contract that we just signed with, was it with Westport or
I don't
was it
think
with Edgecombe? It was.
It might have been what you wanted to do with Edgecombe, and then they ended up going with CLC anyways.
Okay,
But
because
Westport was-
what I remember, which was hard for me to pursue it back then, was that I wanted to keep the contracts the same, to expire the same, and then move on and increase them. So that's what all I remember is we were keeping the contracts the same. So
And Westport's contract does say that they're responsible for the contract.
that's what I that's what I remember as well.
Okay, I'll wait to hear from the attorney and we'll go from there.
Thank you very much.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's what we do. Oh, and if anybody wants, National Night Out is next door.
That's on
law
the
enforcement
agenda
and-
for after we
Okay.
adjourn.
Kim has volunteered to be done.
She had, I heard her when I walked away, she's like, if we get done early
I'll
enough,
do
I'm
it,
gonna go
I'll do it,
over.
but we have
I'll
to
stop
get,
talking so you can
we
get
gotta get
done.
out of here, yeah.
So we're
If that
gonna,
isn't enough, we'll draft committee plan and move.
we're gonna head back over, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I just want to say, this contract was signed by the people, the selectmen of Dresden on the 24th of July. I find it hard to believe that they didn't read it before they signed it. And if they didn't read it, shame on them, but.
And did Westport's contract end at the same time?
Don't know.
Okay. I just, like I said, I'm just going from an old man's memory, but that's what I remember, that we were keeping them the same.
It really was.
I was trying to figure out how exactly.
I saw John's face.
Attached where Toby is saying.
All right.
Yes.
Next on the agenda, revisit the sewer abatement request of Roland T. Lacombe, monkey see, monkey do.
You've seen the material before. It's a long letter from Mr. Lacombe, dated January 28th of 19, pretty comprehensive. He updated his presentation with his recent actions. This came in today, dated August 6th. And I think...
Oh, we don't have that.
No, and just, I don't know whether I should pass it out or not, because So this was on the agenda, right?
Like my talking.
So that's the more recent one, this.
You have
Uh,
yourself, if we can
Yeah,
share one.
I've got a few more, I've got to give one to the, board, this one. No, that's my last one, sorry, I'll give it to you later. I would like to, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, if I refer back to the minutes of the March 19 meeting, where the board did not formally take a vote, even though the indications were the board did not wish to grant the abatement. I'll read it here. Regarding the monkey see, monkey do water beverage wastewater treatment plant manager said that there were 4 meters on the property, and the property owners didn't understand the consumption of water that would result in power washing the building. The Wiscasset Water District advised that no abatement should be recognized. Bob Dragon said that the business should have had a separate water meter for power washing. And as you all know, the metered water is what the sewage rates are based on. And it's incumbent on the person whose meter is showing the water coming in to figure out how it gets dealt with, and Mr. Lacombe basically is saying it didn't go into the sewer, therefore he should get the abatement. Now, one of the things you'll see in Mr. Lacombe's letter of today is that they're changing their meters, and they will have a meter that will be specifically for outdoor water, which will be measured separately and will not be assessed with a sewerage charge. And that's something that should have been done before. It's a little confusing there. Mr. Gaith, Mr. Cassette, myself, and code enforcement officer went there and were looking at the meters. There are 4 meters on the main building. The different lines are split in the basement of Mr. Lacombe's building, and the other people, monkey see, monkey do, they need permission to get down to look at the meters. So I think going forward, and of course, the abatement request is for something that has already happened, but going forward, the solution is to make sure that the water that's used on the exterior, whether it be for pressure washing or for misting all those ropes and things, that should be on a separate meter, measured separately. But the issue in front of the board is, what do you do with something that happened last year? I don't know if that helps you. No?
Well, yeah, yes, it does. Well, I would request a couple of things here. That you look at the minutes. Just before you got here, we took this issue up when Marion was still the manager. So there are earlier minutes relating to this issue. I think the first time we turned it down because we felt that it had arrived too late for us to consider. Having looked this over, maybe we were a little hasty on that. But I would like to see the minutes from that earlier meeting when we discussed this.
Okay, so that would have been sometime in January?
Probably, yeah. Oh, yeah, would have to have been.
Okay.
I believe we did. Maybe
I
I'm
think
off.
you're right. I actually thought that we had turned it down because there's like a 30-day or how many days, 60-day, like it's 30-day time period. And there had been someone else who had requested an abatement recently before that, and we turned it down because it was outside of that window. And so in my mind, just to be fair, it was like, okay, it's not in the right time frame.
But looking at the time frame that's here, I'd like to just check that. And Big Al, yes.
I brought a letter earlier that Mr. Lacombe asked me to come and represent him tonight since he was out of state and originally requested a meeting on January 28th. So this has been a long time in coming. But the problem was not power washing, but the water usage was after they were closed. It had nothing to do with the power washing. And when the meter was pulled and spring came, they found a broken pipe under the road. So that 16,000 cubic feet of water was definitely used. It was used under the road, and he paid for the 16,000 cubic feet of water. He's just looking not to pay for the sewer, because they went and found the broken pipe and repaired the broken pipe. The power wash was prior to the leak, so I don't think it had anything to do with it. He paid for it, and that was it. But he is requesting not to pay the sewerage for the 16,000. He wants to pay the minimum that would be required, which is what he had been paying. And if you look at statistically the years he's been in business, he's never used more than 400 other when there was a broken pipe. So I make that known on his behalf because he's out of town. But he did start the process with the letter requesting an abatement and filled out the forms back in January.
He does reference the leak from May or whatever. He's not asking for an abatement on that.
No, he's just asking for the big, for the single.
So like I said, I would like to check on that. And the second point, and I appreciate you being here, but this is a pretty large abatement. And if I'm going to vote for it, I want to look the guy straight in the eye and talk to him.
Listen, I'm not questioning him. This started in January. He's with his family, not in town, unfortunately.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but I want to talk to the person themselves.
Put it on the agenda again, you know.
Yes, it will be, and I think it's one of those issues that the full board should decide.
Yep.
It's gone on this long, I mean.
It can go another round.
Yeah. Yes,
It's gonna go to lien on the 22nd of August. If it's not abated or paid or,
Can the board hold the lien until after it's resolved?
no, this time frame, so we have to follow.
oh, okay, the next meeting's the 20th, so we have time to do it.
If it's on the 20th agenda, yes.
Yep.
But that doesn't give him much time to pay it if you deny the abatement.
If we approve the abatement, then the lien doesn't have to be.
If you approve the abatement, then he doesn't have to pay it, correct? But if you deny it, he would only have 2 days to pay it before it will go to lien.
He's a good boy.
He could always pay it, and we still could abate it after the fact.
It usually,
That is
it usually
true.
works that way.
That is true.
And as I said, I'm certainly willing to look at it a second time with the information that's in front of us, but I'm not ready to act on it tonight. Anyone else? If not, then this will reappear on the agenda on the 20th. Very good, thank you, everybody. Next on the agenda, 2018-2019 carry forwards. Manager's recommendations, what do you got for us?
There's a lot of things we need to do. In fact, with the fire department, as you see in the figures here, they do have potentially a carry forward, and there's a lot of work to be done on the floors. And my suggestion was that another 10,000 be added to it, because these floors are 50, 60 years old, and they need to be fixed. And my suggestion would be, when I'm meeting with the fire department next week, to go through the whole process. There was some material brought forward way back, but it was only, they requested bids from a few people. I'd like them to be a review by a number of people and close bid process going forward. So that's one of my suggestions. Again, next one is the municipal building, $4,000 again towards floor. We got to pull all the carpets. They're shifting around, particularly in the recent humidity. We had wrinkles in the cars that were in the carpets that were actually trip hazards, and it's a dusty mess. I wouldn't do every floor in every part of the building at the same time. I would put a priority towards the fire department and the EMS, similar kind of flooring. They're thinking in terms of brushed concrete, which I think would be an appropriate thing. It's also low maintenance. Maintenance is one of our challenges in pretty much all our flooring. And so next time around, I would like to see that we've got a material that needs less maintenance, and obviously we should be putting a maintenance program together, which I don't believe the town ever has. Public Works, Ted is here, so I came up with 11,000. Let's see, $10,000 has now been changed to 14. We've had a review of some large trees that need to be removed. They're in our right of way. We've had a run over in our striping costs. I think we budgeted budgeted 9 people.
Budgeted 9, I cut that from that 20,000 that I had to cut.
And Ted had hoped to repair 4 catch basins. We have a lot of catch basins, obviously, and some of them were in pretty poor shape.
Yeah.
And Ted had estimated a couple of $1,000 per catch basin, and that was in the original proposal. Now, since that original proposal, we've looked at the trees. Instead of 2 trees being removed at $1,000 a piece, Ted spoke to Hawks Tree Service, and there's a sugar tree on Lincoln Street. There's another sugar maple on corner of Washington and Summer. That's $1,000 a piece. That's the original 2. On Flood Avenue, there are 3 oaks, 2 pine, and the pine are dead. That's $9,000. And these are trees in the public way, with traffic and parking and people and buildings. And that's a total of $11,000 instead of the 2 we had hoped. So that's a big number, but we've had quite a few complaints about limbs overhanging and getting this and so on. Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, and Hawks did recommend we should get it done sooner than later.
And we've got a lot of mature trees. It's an old town, so all very nice when you plant them and they're young. But so, and then my last item was on the waterfront. Obviously, the bathrooms, even though we have put some money aside, I'm not sure it was adequate. And the piers, all the piers need a significant amount of work. In fact, when we look at the assessment from Maine Municipal, which is later in your package, one of them was that need a structural review of all our piers, because I've been down there quite a bit, and there are trip hazards, rotten boards. Ted has been working on some of those, but it needs a top to bottom review, proper survey to be sure it's structurally sound before we start putting the boards on top. A lot of them are rotten, a lot of them are broken off at the ends, a lot of them are cupped. I was down there today, and some of them are splintered, which sensible people wouldn't walk around in flip-flops and bare feet, but people do. But it's there's a lot of work that needs to be done. It's unfortunate, but it does need to be done. So I know it's totally the board's discretion. And the last thing on the top was the contingency. I don't mind not spending contingency, but I would like it to be put into this coming year's contingency, because I believe we should, instead of $20,000, we should have closer to 50, because when stuff hits the fan, which it will, we need the money. A lot of old buildings, a lot of old structures, and it'd be nice to use it to reduce taxes. But my view is that these are the critical things. I could be wrong. Maybe things will go beautifully for a year, but I don't like to run the risk with the public safety and health, and it's more expensive. Yes.
I just wanted to clarify on the tree removal, where it says 2,000 on your note here, that I should strike that and write 11,000. That's what you're saying?
Yes. Somebody modified it. That was originally 10,000.
for tree removal.
Yeah.
Sassy Public Works, 14,000,
And
Florida
now we-
Catch Basins, 8, tree removal, 2.
Yeah, but now, just,
You wouldn't add.
just yesterday, actually it was today, Ted came along with the new numbers, so we dropped the catch basin and added trees.
I see. So drop the catch basin, and tree comes out to 11,000. So the total is 15,000, is striping still?
It is now 113.
Can you read the totals for each one anyway, so that we don't have
Okay, we've got $11,000 for trees. We're dumping the catch basins basically.
Yeah.
And we got 4,000 for striping. That gives us the 15.
plus the 4,000 for striping?
And what happened is, Ted had originally, before the budget cuts, Ted had originally budgeted, I think it was 15,000 for striping.
For the striping, I budgeted just shy of 10.
Just shy of 10. Anyway, it ended up as,
Come in
came
13.5.
in as 13. This is actual, a bill that we just invoiced last week. Yes, Kim. Kim.
How many trees did you say that was?
How many trees?
11.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
7.
7, 8. I got 8 trees. All right, Ted? 8 trees?
That's the majority of them is on Flood Ave. 2 downtown is a must to get down before they come down.
Has that been put out to bid? That sounds like insanely high. I just had a bunch of trees taken out.
Yeah, so I, and it depends on the size of the tree, where it's
Well,
located.
I had some big ones taken out.
And location, I think, probably has something to do with it too.
This isn't going out to bid?
Well, these are just the estimates that Paul came up with.
That's
Okay.
the first one.
Yeah, first one.
Something like that would go out to bid.
Yep, we can, this, again, these numbers are brand new, and the survey is brand new, literally today. I thought we were just looking at 2 trees at one point, and found out.
Well, my only comment is that for all of these, you're asking for less money than you could be asking for. There are larger carry forwards than what you're asking for. And I appreciate your being conservative.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to present a reasonable balance. You know, I do like there to be some money to the general surplus, but on the other hand, I don't want to find ourselves 6 months out regretting that we haven't done certain things. So that's what I've come up with. So,
Well, I think these it's a reasonable request, and I move that we authorize the carry forwards as presented.
Do we have the presented amounts and what they're for?
I haven't. Fire department for floors, 10,000.
10,000?
Municipal building, 4,000 for floors. Public works, we're looking at 14,000.
14 or 15?
Sorry, 15,000, I'm looking at the order.
Okay.
So 11,000 for trees, 4,000 for striping. Waterfront, $10,000, bathrooms and pier repair. And on the contingency, I'd probably keep that separately, be up to the board. That might be the last thing you'd look at.
I would think so.
Yeah, but if,
No, no.
All right, there's a motion before the board to accept the carry forwards as recommended. All those in favor? Bernice?
I will say that there's only $63,500 in undesignated before you vote on this. If you might want to total this up, because we don't want to go below 0 in undesignated. That's why I was asking for the totals.
Okay. I understand we're going to be coming into $85,000 fairly quickly.
We'll be coming into what?
85,000?
That has nothing to do with our balances at the end of June 30th, 19 rather.
When that money comes in, doesn't it go into the general fund?
It has nothing to do with the balances at the end of June 30th, 19. It will go into the general fund and it will be part of the fund balance as of June 30th of, which 85,000 are you talking about?
Isn't that one of the taxes that's going to come through?
That won't become part of the undesignated, that's going to go into
it'll go against the receivable and go into cash. Doesn't affect fund balance, it affects cash.
It's still 85 we didn't have.
It's $85,000 that will become cash and will reduce our receivable. It does not increase our fund balance. It's not a revenue or an expense.
See, I never understood that. I mean, it's 85 we didn't have, it's gonna be 85 we now have.
You're talking two different things, cash and fund balance, however.
But we do have the fund balance to do this.
I don't know, I didn't ever get it to complete total.
50,000, not counting
Okay, there's
contingency.
63.5 in fund balance right now with what we've gone through with the audit. I just want to make sure that we don't go below that and have a negative fund balance, is all I'm saying.
I wouldn't want that either. All right, all those in favor of the motion? It is unanimous. C, Maine Municipal Association response to the board's question on remote participation at meetings.
This was a request at the last meeting that I checked with the legal people as to whether the presence of a board member is necessary for them to be able to vote. And you see from this Maine Municipal, they had a standard presentation because it is a frequently asked question. Remote participation in meetings rejected again. And they've done this, I think it's the third time in 6 years that measure has failed to become law. And so I think that brings us back into where we were with the amended.
Yes, where we're supposed to be.
So now the next question is, with the amendment, and I'll have to do a very simple wording to make that amendment, which the board would have to still have to approve, because you've got to see the document and the words before we should approve it. But I could certainly distribute those guidelines to all committees if the board wishes.
As long as that's in there so that they are
Yes,
aware of it. Yes, excellent, excellent. Very good. 10, new business. We have some bid openings.
Lots of it. I think some gentlemen out there are very interested in those. The first one, Winter Sand.
Winter Sand.
Okay.
The owners people should stay on. Where they put this in Greek.
Okay, well, it's
You want to read it? There's only one bid.
It's only one bid from Nathan Northrup, Northrup, I believe he's Jefferson. For the first item is 3,000 to 3,500 cubic yards of live sharp quartering screen winter sand loaded on town provided trucks, $6 per cubic yard. I don't know if that sounds good to you, Ted. And they're pointing out the approximate mileage from the location, their location of the sand to our town garage. And then another one for, let's see, 3,000 to 3,500 cubic yards of live sharp quartering screen winter sand delivered to the town garage would be $14.75 per cubic yard. And I guess it all comes down to what we normally do. Do we pick it up or do they deliver it?
We kind of, when we have time, we get what we can and we have them deliver us. Saves a lot.
I would move that we authorize the town manager and the road commissioner to review the bid and make a recommendation. There's a second?
Second.
All those in favor? 3 in favor, 1 abstention.
No, I was just.
Good try, good try. All right, next on the agenda are paving bids. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4 paving bids. This one is from Pike Industries of Fairfield, Maine. Okay. This is for Cushman Point and Clark's Point. The grand total is $147,335. The second bid is from Allstate Asphalt, Inc., out of Richmond, Maine. Their grand total is $154,462.50. The third bid is from Crooked Construction of Topsom, Maine. Their grand total is $137,520.05. And the fourth one is from Hager Enterprises of Damascus, Maine. And their total bid is $130,000. Yeah, I think that's $995. That's got to tell what that is.
Well, there's another one up there, that's like a 4 actually. See, this looks like.
All right, $495.
134.
All right, that is the 4 bids for the paving. And again, I would move that we hand the bids over to the road commissioner and the town manager for their recommendations.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Sorry, I can't do it. 3-0.
Appreciate getting so many of you bidding for the work that's important to us. We will make a determination today, is what, Tuesday, Ted? Would we, by tomorrow, would it be okay to make a decision? We can make a decision. Try and make a
Just
decision.
let the town manager discuss it.
Try and make a decision, get back to you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like it's a formality, let's do it.
The third and final bid opening is for a tax anticipation note. And the first bid is from the first, from Garen Scott. Nothing there.
Okay, the key stuff is, the amount is $1,011,000. On an as-needed basis, it would be 2.4% calculated on a 360-day basis. And the lump sum would be 2.4%.
How much?
Still 360.
How much is the lump sum?
A bit more.
How much is the lump sum?
Lump sum is
2.4%. It's the same for both.
on a 360 day. Okay, that's
All right, that's the first. The next bid is from Bath Savings Institute for Bath, Maine. All right, for the $1,011,000. They're bidding 2.34 for as needed, and 2.34 for the lump sum.
That makes it easy. Okay.
The third bid is from Bangor Savings, from Bangor, Maine. They thank us, but they have opted not to place a bid with this request. Thank you, Bangor Savings. And the fourth one is from Partners Bank of Sanford, Maine. The ad needed is 3.38%, and the lump sum is also 3.38%. Say. The final bid is from the Chaya Savings Bank, Chaya Bank. And this bid, the as-need basis is 2.55%. And the lump sum is also 2.55%. Just double check those are fives.
Yes, pretty sure. Yeah, it's gotta be.
Okay. I move the board and turn these bids for the tax anticipation note over to the manager and the treasurer for their recommendations.
Second.
All those in favor? 4-0. Thank you. That is the end of the bids. Okay. The next item on the agenda is it says to set a date for the special town meeting, but I believe we first have to set a date to meet with the budget committee.
Yeah, the budget committee is meeting on the 14th anyway. And we've already sent a copy of the proposed.
That's next Wednesday at 6 o'clock. Then I move that the board meet with the budget committee, if they'll have us, next Wednesday at 6 o'clock to discuss the article. You give a second?
Second.
I can't make it on Wednesday, but I'll live it because of them.
Well, that's the day we try to meet with them.
Wait, what day is Wednesday?
When?
The 4th, I won't be here either. I'll be in Limestone. Dropping my son off at school. It's gonna be heartbreaking.
Well, if it's all right with the board, we will still schedule a meeting and,
Absolutely. And I apologize.
No, I hear you, it's understandable, this is sort of coming out of left field. But there will be a continuous,
So what is the date? I know you said Wednesday, but the date is what, the 14th or the following?
I can't see it is the 14th,
Okay.
so next Wednesday at 6 o'clock. All right.
And is it just, because I'd love to be there, is it hurry? Do we have to have it next Wednesday?
Yeah, because we're putting the date.
For the town meeting.
For the special town meeting.
Thank you. No, right, no, that's just, I just was asking.
Yeah, we're compressed in time. It's not a panic, but it's
Perfect.
no wiggle room.
We won't be holding it on the 20th. We would have to post, it takes more than 7 days if we meet on the 14th.
That's why I asked if it can be exactly what I was
I
asking.
think it's 5 days from.
No. It has to be at least 7 full days.
Right.
Business days or just 7 days?
7 full days. No, we cannot meet on Wednesday and meet the following Tuesday. Which is, I don't see that as a problem. I mean, if we meet next Wednesday, then the following Tuesday at our selectmen's meeting, we'll set the town meeting date itself.
Okay, well, I thought I read 5 days because it's not a, it's just a regular, special meeting, I think it's 5 days.
Town meetings take a week. Right, Mrs. Flanagan?
That's what I
Okay.
recall,
Me
unless
too.
it's changed.
7 days.
Okay, I'll,
That's twice she's agreed with me.
You gotta write this
Thank you very
down.
much. I appreciate that. No, it is 7 days, Joe.
okay.
Well, do we want to meet next Wednesday, or? The only thing is, we don't meet next Wednesday, we've got to coordinate with the budget committee and.
No, yep.
Well, we met next Tuesday. You get your 7 days, right?
I can do Tuesday.
I would say, I wouldn't feel comfortable. I mean, I want to get this behind us, but it isn't that much of a rush that we have to do that. Last year, we held the same meeting at the end of October, so we are well ahead of the game this year. And I would rather err on the side of caution and post with plenty of days. Plus, speaking for myself, I would rather hold a town meeting on a different night than a selectmen's meeting, which we generally do. We don't combine the two. Okay, so next Wednesday at 6 o'clock.
You didn't go.
Oh, we didn't vote? Thank you. All those in favor of meeting with the budget committee next Wednesday night? It's unanimous, thank you. Next on the agenda, resignation of Bill DeVries from Wiscasset's Historic Preservation Commission.
I'm sorry, I have a question. Are we supposed to approve this warrant?
No.
Okay.
No. Didn't we just enthusiastically appoint?
You did. I went to 3 readings, so.
This is actually my first communication from.
I gave it
Did that.
3 tries.
Bill, can I ask why you're resigning? And you don't have to say a word, I just,
That last meeting, Jeff, was pretty stressful.
yep,
I have to say.
that's what I'm hearing, and that's what I was wondering if that's what it hinged around.
Well, I think Judy Flanagan recommended you watch the video, the tape, or you'd understand what I was talking about.
And also I'm passing along is I'm sorry, you know what I mean, and I appreciate you being on the committee, so
Well,
that's,
thank you, Jeff, I appreciate that.
yeah.
Honestly, when I signed on for it, I didn't think it was going to be meeting twice a month, and that's just a little bit more time than I want to commit to it.
Thank you.
I agree with everything that Jeff said. I enthusiastically voted for you. And if you want to apply for any other position in the future, I will still enthusiastically appoint you.
Well, when I get to be, when I get to be older, I might run for the Board of Selectmen.
There you go.
When I'm ready to retire.
I'm sure you'll find the vacancies there.
Thank you.
With that, I would move that we accept his resignation with regret.
I'll second that.
Oh, thank you.
All those in favor? Unanimous.
With nothing,
Next is the town manager's report.
All right.
Take it away, John.
Okay, Safety Works report was promised to us on Monday, hasn't arrived yet, so I will have to defer on that. The other report is property hazard survey, municipal risk management. Mr. Cummins came by a couple of weeks ago and looked at how it works for ash. Nothing too major today. There, just get an inspection on the lift, and that's some electrical safety about maintaining areas around transformers and such like to be kept clear, no big deal. And so that was the pictures. The pictures there just show, that's the rec center there. Just move some boxes out of the way and put a line on the door and say don't put anything inside that. You had some grinder thing, there was a gap.
Yep, that's repaired,
Small thing,
small thing.
so people don't get their fingers caught. And that, see, solid shed, he took pictures of everything out there, didn't really have any, didn't have any real problems. Let's see, your electrical panels, what was his problem with the electrical panel?
There's screws missing, holes in it all.
And he liked the fill line you got in the salt shed.
Yeah.
And that was the welding bench with the plug and the gap with the grinder. And I think that was pretty much it. And the rec center, no real problems there. So the other thing, he went by and he looked at the creamery pier and down that area. He said with the amount of activity there and the vehicles on the pier, and the loads on the pier, he thought of structural evaluation. Now those things aren't cheap. Structural evaluation would be appropriate. I don't know when the last one was done, but again, that's one of the reasons I asked for the carry forward. So, all in all, that was a good result. He was quite happy, and so that's that one. Next is eviction of tenants on the tax-acquired property. The good news is somebody is coming forward to pay the property taxes. Fingers crossed.
Excellent.
So that means we don't have a problem there.
Is that for which property? The one in Old Chiefs?
With the one with the children. Yeah.
Well, that is good.
That's good news. And
Thank
then,
you, Joe, for working on that one.
Bernice did,
No,
that was a follow-up.
But that was a bugger.
Oh, yeah, it was on Christmas. But fingers crossed.
Yes, thank you.
And on the artwork, art walk food vendor licenses, as you know, the board granted a temporary license for the last month, and there'll be another one coming up on the 27th. And so I've asked that the food vendors come in front of the board at the next meeting, which is the 20th. It's a week before they serve food again. So that's just putting it on the agenda. There was a question about the disposition of the curbing that MDOT had picked up from the streets, and there's some concern that maybe some people were lifting it without authorization, and Ted assures me that nobody has been taking any curbing, so I'm happy about that.
They bring some big equipment for them to take it.
Yeah.
No, it isn't tied down.
One other item, we got a check of $77.78 from Maine Municipal's Workers' Comp Fund, which is based on our experience. That's a good thing.
It is.
And I just got a call this afternoon. The Amtrak people are reviewing the state of the tracks between Brunswick and Rockland.
That's great.
And they'll be doing that on next Wednesday.
I have a post-it note that I was going to talk with the board about that tonight, because we were 2 or 3 years ago, they came and did a presentation, and we were excited about them coming, and I'm really glad. That's
I just got a call this afternoon, and I'll be getting some follow-up material.
That's wonderful.
So,
Those tracks should be in excellent shape. The state put like 35 million into it.
And there's a friend of mine who is an engineer, and he says they're welded, so he goes there, it's top of the line.
good.
It's an incredibly smooth ride.
Right.
It really is.
That's what I meant.
Or is there any other business to come before the board? Judy Flanagan.
Did you say post-it note?
That's why I was waiting, I looked this way without grinning at you. Her and her post-it notes.
I'm not sure those.
Oh, we won't. If there is no other business to come before the, yes, Kim?
I was just wondering if we could put on our agenda, either at the next meeting or the one after, some planning for the year. At one point, Marion told me that at the beginning of the new year, we would make a short-term goals plan, and we never did it last year, so I would like the select board to prioritize a few items and
Because
Uh,
I'd like to meet with
keep
the.
coming back to
I'd like
that.
to meet with not just I'd like to meet with the committees.
Yeah.
I think that's, when you mentioned that, I was
Yeah,
kind of.
there's that, I have a few ideas of things I would like us to focus on, so maybe we can talk about that.
And we always talked about years ago having a joint meeting, maybe once or twice a year with the school board as well.
Yeah,
I would love
I would love to
to
do
get back to
that.
that.
I would love to know how people go through the process of starting a business in our town. I want to make sure it's as streamlined as possible, because we never hear about when it goes well, we only
We just
hear
hear when
it
approve them.
doesn't, and so, I would like to know how that works and make sure that we're doing the best that we can to make sure that this is an easy place to open up a business, because we want to increase our tax base. I want to make sure it's an easy place to buy a home and live here, because we want people to live here. More people, we spread the burden out. So, yeah, if we could put that on an agenda, I'd really like to have some planning for the year.
Lori Smith did a nice summary of I think it was called Doing Business in Wiscasset.
She's like ancient history, though. We've had, you know what I mean? Like, she was 100 years ago. We've had so many changes, and people come and people go, and
Well, interestingly enough,
But we worked on it back then, so that was.
Kim has been looking at that document with a view to updating the numbers. The concept, there's nothing new about the concept.
That was great.
But how best to go about it with the changing environment. 5 or 6 years have gone by. But we've started doing little tidy up stuff on checklists, and it's quite confusing. Linda, our town clerk, was showing me a list of 18 lines on it. Step, 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 step. And, yeah, I do understand the paperwork, and we have a lot of paperwork for people to do almost anything. And of course, then the thing about the ordinances, they're not always that helpful.
No.
You look for guidance in the ordinances, and it's, I won't say
Very vague.
more confused, but
It's vague.
it is, a lot of it's very vague. Anyway, but no, I agree with all those things.
yeah, we could just plan to plan. I'd like
Like
to
a
do that.
workshop.
I think your point is well taken. The turnover is so tremendous at all levels of government here in Wiscasset.
Yeah, at the school and in town, both. Yeah.
Is there any further business? No, we don't have nothing on this. Thank you. If not, I would like to thank everybody for making this a pleasant experience tonight. I really do appreciate that. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
I know, I don't have a towel, but I'm on it.
The entertainment for the evening will be Kim getting dunked.
They missed several, but I'm just putting your ship early out of the room.
Okay, for the big openings, that's all.
I did
Yeah.
that. It's one of the
Was
first
there a
times.
second meeting? Not yet. Oh, so I'm wondering if, it's not scheduled, right? No. Okay. I'll send an email. Oh, right. What I need to do